In the vast, ever-expanding tapestry of galactic civilizations, a peculiar consensus had emerged over the millennia. Humans were, without question, the wild-card species. No one understood how or why, but when the universe's most advanced beings found themselves stumped, humans had a knack for pulling solutions out of thin air. Today, the Galactic Coalition's High Assembly faced its gravest crisis yet. On a station orbiting the supermassive black hole at the heart of the galaxy, delegates from 278 species sat in a tense and frustrated silence. "This is futile," groaned Ambassador Vithark of the Seraphon Accord, his translucent wings trembling in frustration. "We'd have analyzed every angle. If we cannot stabilize the temporal distortions around the singularity, the entire quadrant will collapse into entropy." "Indeed," said Consul Jury of the Clythe Consortium, her 8 eye stalks wilting. "The greatest minds across the galaxy have tried and failed. We must accept the inevitability of loss." There was a murmur of agreement, punctuated by resigned gestures and deflated postures. Then from the back of the chamber, a deep, rumbling voice broke through the collective despair. "Call the humans." All heads turned toward General Rosk of the Draknar Dominion. Known for their brute strength and no-nonsense attitude, the Draknar were not typically the first to advocate for outside help. But Rosk's words carried weight, and his scales shimmered with the golden hue of absolute conviction. "The humans?" Ambassador Vithark's voice dripped with incredulity. "What could they possibly do that we cannot? They are unpredictable, reckless." "Precisely," Rosk replied, leaning forward. "They think in ways we cannot. When faced with chaos, they thrive. If anyone can find a solution to this mess, it's them." The chamber erupted into a cacophony of arguments. Some delegates passionately supported the idea, citing humanity's infamous ingenuity. Others dismissed it outright, pointing to the humans' relatively primitive technology and chaotic nature. Finally, the High Chancellor, a stoic being of pure energy named Luminal, raised a luminous hand to silence the room. "The matter is decided," Luminal intoned, their voice resonating like the hum of a starship's engine. "Summon the humans." 3 days later, the human delegation arrived. Well, delegation might have been a strong word. In typical human fashion, they sent a single representative. Dr. Clara Hargrove, a scrappy astrophysicist with a penchant for unorthodox solutions, stepped off the shuttle and into the chamber, her expression a mix of curiosity and determination. She was greeted by a sea of skeptical faces, many of which weren't faces at all in the traditional sense. Clara adjusted her glasses, squared her shoulders, and addressed the assembly. "All right," she said, her voice cutting through the tension like a laser scalpel. "What's the problem?" Ambassador Vithark fluttered forward, clearly unimpressed. "The problem's human. It's a temporal cascade originating from the singularity. Every model, every calculation, every attempt at intervention has failed. The distortions are growing exponentially. If we cannot stabilize them, billions will perish." Clara nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds like a real pickle. Show me the data." Over the next several hours, Clara pored over the mountains of information provided by the galaxy's brightest minds. Quantum flux maps, multidimensional energy signatures, and intricate gravitational wave patterns filled the air in holographic displays. The room buzzed with anticipation as she worked, occasionally muttering to herself or jotting down notes on a paper notepad, a bafflingly primitive tool by galactic standards. Finally, she looked up, her eyes alight with a spark of discovery. "You've all been overthinking this," she declared. The assembly erupted in protests and indignant outbursts. Clara held up a hand, silencing them. "Hear me out," she said. "You've been approaching this like it's a purely scientific problem. But it's not. It's an engineering problem. You don't need to fight the distortions. You need to redirect them." "Redirect them?" Consul Jury's eye stalks twisted in confusion. "To where?" Clara grinned. "Into a controlled feedback loop. Think of it like a musical instrument. Right now, the singularity is an out-of-tune orchestra. We're going to turn it into a symphony." Her plan was audacious, borderline insane by most species standards. Using a series of precisely calibrated graviton emitters, she proposed creating a harmonic resonance that would align the temporal distortions, funneling their chaotic energy back into the singularity in a stable loop. It was a solution no one else had considered because it required a leap of intuition and an appetite for risk that only a human could muster. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of activity. Clara worked alongside teams of engineers from across the galaxy, barking orders and making adjustments on the fly. Despite the skepticism, her confidence was infectious, and the Coalition's finest minds threw themselves into the project with newfound vigor. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The graviton emitters were in place, their crystalline cores glowing with barely contained power. The control room was packed with delegates, their eyes fixed on the central display as Clara stood at the helm. "All right, everyone," she said, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. "This is it. If this works, drinks are on me. If it doesn't, well, it's been nice knowing you." With that, she activated the system. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the chaotic waves of energy surrounding the singularity began to shift. The discordant vibrations smoothed into a steady rhythm, like the beating of a giant cosmic heart. The room erupted into cheers as the instruments confirmed what they were seeing. The temporal cascade was stabilizing. Clara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "And that," she said with a grin, "is how it's done." The aftermath was a blur of celebrations and accolades. Clara was hailed as a hero, her name etched into the annals of galactic history. But as she prepared to return to Earth, she remained characteristically humble. "You know," she said to General Rosk as they stood in the docking bay, "it's funny. Everyone thinks humans are special because we're clever or resourceful. But the truth is, we just don't know when to quit. That's our real superpower." Rosk grumbled in agreement. "Your kind has a saying, does it not? Necessity is the mother of invention." Clara laughed. "Yeah, something like that." As her shuttle departed, the High Assembly watched in silence, a newfound respect for humanity etched into their collective consciousness. They had called to humans in their hour of need, and the humans had delivered, as they always seemed to do. In the end, one thing was clear: when the galaxy had no ideas left, it could always count on humanity to bring the impossible to life.